So millennials saw the biggest score improvement amongst all the other generations in 2020. I'll talk about that and plus more on the new episode of the Joe Credit Show. So before we begin, I know roll eyes, millennials, love them or hate them. I'm a millennial, and our group, my generation, did see the biggest jump in score improvement in 2020 in the light of the pandemic. And so we'll talk about that. I'll even share kind of my observation on how that happened, why that happened, so on and so forth. This video is going to be just sharing some data with you. So if this is boring information, feel free to tune out. If you do care about this information, interested in these stats, then stay tuned. I'll go ahead and go through that. So this information, let me just kind of reference by sourcing where I'm getting this information. So it came from Experian's 2020 Consumer Review. This data is based on FICO scoring, so it's not based on Vantage scoring. Vantage scoring is like Credit Karma, which is a company that does provide Vantage scores to the public. So it's not Vantage scoring, this is solely based on FICO scoring. Also, the study did not specify if other bureaus were used, and it didn't specify what score model was used. Is it FICO mortgage, auto, which version was it? I think it might have just been FICO, in general, probably an overall look or overall study on all different FICO scores. And I would say probably just Experian only, since the study was done by Experian. So now that is out of the way, that data is out of the way. And I don't mean that to water down the information I'm getting ready to share, but I say that just so you know where this data is coming from, and I'm not, sharing misinformation or information that is not correct. So let's break down the ranking. So there's 5 groups of generations. The first place is the millennials. So millennials, their score in 2019 was a 668. So the average FICO score in 2019 was 668. In 2020, the average FICO score was 679. So the millennials saw an average of 11-point increase in 2020. And by the way, millennials, for those that don't know, the age group for millennials is ages 24 through 39. That is the millennial generation. So they ranked number 1. So the millennials saw an average 11-point increase in 2020. One thing also that I'm leaning to believing in the study, or since it's an Experian sort of the leader in this alternative data space where they're collecting alternative data like your Netflix account, being able to score that or get that data on the credit report and score it. Your utility accounts, your telecom accounts, getting that on your Experian credit report and scoring that. Now, again, those types of accounts impact the newer versions of FICO, I believe FICO 8 or FICO 9 and newer. So it's possible that if the FICO scores were either, this study was done by the newer versions of FICO, and again, it's with Experian, then of course, a lot of people, especially millennials, of course, took advantage of that ability to add alternative types of data to the credit report. You would expect that as opposed to maybe baby boomers or Gen X. I think Gen X or even Gen Z did take advantage of that as well, but I think the millennials saw the biggest score improvement if, in fact, Experian, this study included those alternative types of data, also known as Experian Boost, into the equation. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that is also a possibility. So the second place generation was Generation X. Generation X started off with a 688 score in 2019 and finished off with a 698 score in 2020. So they saw a 10-point average improvement in this generation. And Generation X is age group 40 through 55. So not far away from millennials, really 1 point shy. So it's not like a big difference. So, the Generation X did see some score improvement as well. They're a 10-point average compared to the millennials, which had 11-point average increase. Third place was Generation Z. So Generation Z is age groups 18 through 23. Generation Z had a 667 score in 2019, finished off with a 674 credit score in 2020. So they saw an average of 7-point increase in that generation. Fourth place were the baby boomers. Baby boomers actually started off with a 731 average credit score in 2019, finished off with an average score in 2020 of 739. So they saw an average score increase of 5 points. Baby boomers are age groups 56 through 74. And then last but not least was the silent generation. They came in fifth place. Average score was 757 in 2019. They finished off with a 758 score in 2020, so 1 point increase, and that's going to be the age group of 75 plus. So some of my observations from this is that, age groups over 56, so baby boomers and then the silent generation, and they have a really high average credit score in this age group. I guess what we saw here was mid to high 700s. Age groups 18 through 55, which are going to be your Gen Z, your Gen X, your millennials, average credit score overall mid to high 600s. So it's, in general, stepping back and looking at that, each age group, each generation did see, overall a score improvement. That actually is good news and gives at least me confidence that the consumer is resilient. The consumer will plow through the pandemic. The average consumer will continue to pay bills on time, continue to manage their credit well. No matter what the obstacle is, and stay responsible throughout the duration of the pandemic. Now I get it. Some people were severely impacted to where they didn't really have that luxury, and so our hearts go out to them. But this is really, really, good news to see that quite a bit of people kind of plow through and make sure to maintain all that. So some quick tips going into 2020. If you are, and just kind of piggybacking on the pandemic, a lot of these things are going to be expiring from the CARES Act, the accommodations, the grace periods, things like that. So one thing to be prepared for and get ready for is, getting back to the habit of paying bills on time. Make sure that if you have a payment that's coming up, don't forget it. You don't want to have a slip up and go have a 30-day late payment reported because you completely forgot. Make sure that you have a revisit of all your outstanding credit cards or bills and things like that, and make sure you have auto pay set up, or make sure everything's ready to go for payments that are coming up. Make sure you don't forget that. Also, if you've been going to your credit cards during this pandemic and things are better for you and back on track, make sure you have a budget or some kind of plan to get back and paying your credit cards back down, so your score doesn't suffer in the long run. So make sure to be able to do that. And of course, check your score, check your credit report periodically. Look for any potential late payments that may have been reported that shouldn't be there. Maybe you do have a deferment in place or an accommodation in place, and that creditor, that lender reported you late when they shouldn't have. You obviously want to argue that. You want to bring it to their attention and demand that they remove the late payment. So periodically check your credit report for anything that's inaccurate or anything that's questionable, and be sure to bring that up, whether it's with the credit reporting agencies or with the data furnishers, which are like the creditors, debt collectors. Bring it up with them directly if there's any kind of misreporting that happened to your credit report. So that is my time. Wanted to share that these fun facts with you. I hope you enjoyed that information. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Be sure to like this video if you like that content. Also, if you want to stay up to date on other types of credit information as I drop it, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date when I drop new credit content. Also, last but not least, if you are wanting to repair your credit, wanting to improve your score, just don't have the time on your hands, you're just really busy, just don't really know how to do it or where to begin. If you go to my website, if you go to joechavarria.com/links, it's also, the link is in the description, or it's also in my bio. If you go to my website, you'll see the ability to schedule a no risk, no obligation, complimentary credit review with one of my team members at the Credit Agents. They'll thoroughly review your credit report with you, item by item, line by line, break things down for you, really help you understand what is a credit report, what's on your credit, why certain things shouldn't be there and why things should be, so on and so forth. And set you up with a good game plan to get the credit going in the right direction. They'll teach you exactly how to do it yourself, but if you wanted to hire them to do the work for you, they'll provide you with the free, no risk, no obligation quote on what it would take to hire one of those guys to do all the legwork for you. So again, that's joechavarria.com/links. I'll put that link in the description, or it's in my bio. Other than that, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Joe Credit Show. I'll see you guys